rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. I think we hit the nail right on the head in terms of time. I know a lot of people are like, understanding that with the streaming services, sometimes things are a little behind at some points, along the way, but that's okay. It's all right. If you're a little bit behind, not a big deal. Hopefully your experience is quite well. I did change something slightly in the background, which is hopefully going to make my numbers in terms of how many I get coming in, my numbers increase. And so as of right now, we're doing pretty good. I'm seeing a couple different numbers. So this makes things a lot better for me, and hopefully we'll aggregate a couple of places. I'd really, unfortunately, X doesn't seem like it's aggregating appropriately, even though I do see that there are 2 people viewing over on X. I'm not seeing the aggregation in the Rumble studio, unfortunately, but that's okay. Not a problem. All right, let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance first. The Pledge of Allegiance is going to be recited for us by none other than My News over on Rumble. So My News is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me, and follow along with My News in recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank My News for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your version and rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style and take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file that you have available, attach it to an email, send it off to me, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation order for the Pledge of Allegiance. Hello, Mark, over on Facebook. Haven't seen you in a little bit. Hopefully I haven't missed you, but I haven't seen you commenting over there. So welcome back. Hopefully everything's doing okay for you. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off with tonight's headline sponsor, which is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online. Online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, all you need to do is go to Constitution.AmericanPerspective.online. Take a look at this wonderful product. It is 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Check out that binding, folks. No cheap glue here. It is stitched all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against manufacturing and material defects, such that if something goes wrong with this product, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free in that 100 years. It has rounded corners that my rumblers call thecthe. Also, too, the amendments are in numerical order. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within can and will help you study for your civics exam in Scouts, or civics badge, I should say, in Scouts, as well as any other civics exams that you may have. Head on over to Constitution.AmericanPerspective.online. Go and get them, or get one today. Also, too, go and check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings. They have some fantastic resource material and information over there. And I appreciate them for allowing me to be a brand, or an affiliate, I should say. Not a brand affiliate. I guess it is a kind of a brand affiliate. One more, just because I haven't done one of these in a little while, before we kick off the show. This is 1775 coffee. Hey, still haven't tried it? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, and there are only 1,000 units. You'll be getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. That's pretty easy, because CNN fact checks are lie checks. Anyway, the smooth medium roast, and of course the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. Oh my gosh, can you just imagine what that thing is? I would love to just get one of those. Anyway, you're also getting a frother, strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. And also, you'll get a black 1775 tumbler that says, "I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch." Oh, God, I love this ad. Anyway, $175 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio. Now that's that's the question mark key, /studio. And grab your starter kit before they're gone. Remember, there's only 1,000 of them there. Well, they only had 1,000 of them. So anyway, bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. Head on over to 1775 coffee. That's 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit. Once again, before they're gone, go to 1775coffee.com/studio and get your starter kit today. All right. Ooh, that was fantastic. Oh, that was a great one. Anyway, all right. Let's head on over really quickly to the international desk. I'm going to start off in the international place because we had breaking news that came about an hour before I popped on to the air tonight. And, well, I mean, it's no real surprise, but then again, maybe it is. India, according to this piece in the Epoch Times, says that it has launched airstrikes against terrorists in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. Now, for those of you that don't know, there is a section that is a border area between Pakistan and India that's known as Kashmir, and Kashmir is kind of controlled sort of by both countries in a way. It's not really a country on its own. It doesn't have its own governmental structure, and so both of them sort of share the load within it. But India launched its airstrikes against terrorists there after 26 tourists were killed in the Indian-controlled portion of Kashmir last month in April. So India announced that it fired missiles into several areas of Pakistani-controlled territory on May 7th. The statement read, a little while ago, Indian armed forces launched Operation Sindoor, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, from where terrorist attacks against India have been planned and directed. Our actions have been focused, measured, and non-escalatory in nature. No Pakistani military facilities have been targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in the selection of targets and method of execution. Pakistani officials said that at least 3 people have died in the attacks, including 1 child, and 12 were injured. One of the places reportedly struck was a mosque in the city of Bahawalpur, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, in Punjab. So, there we go. There we go. This action came amid heightened tensions between the two nuclear-armed countries after 26 male students were killed in a terrorist attack in Indian-controlled portion of Kashmir in April. India has blamed Pakistan for backing the attack, while the Pakistani authorities have denied and vowed to respond. According to Reuters, Pakistan said that it had intelligence saying that India was planning to attack. President Donald Trump said that the airstrikes were a shame, acknowledging that the two nations had been fighting each other for a long time, and expressed his hope that this conflict ends very quickly. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called Pakistani's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and India's Foreign Minister, I'm not even going to try it, on April 30th to urge the two nations to de-escalate tensions in Kashmir. So, yeah, we got another foreign potential war that's going on. So, yeah. Anyway, also too off the foreign desk, or the international desk, I should say. Here in the Daily Wire, Israel apparently has greenlit an operation to occupy the Gaza Strip if Hamas doesn't make a deal. Well, for those who have memories longer than just a month or two ago, or like a year ago, or whatever, Israel occupied the Gaza Strip. They gave it to the Palestinians. They backed out of it. They completely backed out of it in 2006. That was your essential two-state solution for you dumbass Democrats that are out there still trying to think that the Palestinians actually want to have the opportunity to self-govern. There was one election in the Gaza Strip, and the winner came out to be none other than Hamas. Gee, I wonder why. Well, Israel's security cabinet, on Sunday approved a plan to invade and occupy the Gaza Strip in an expanded ground operation. And let's be honest, this is the only way that this is going to end. Just the total and complete annihilation of Hamas is the only way that this is going to end. And they can't do that with kid gloves. So, yeah, this is going to be, honestly, this is what it's going to be. The plan, which has been named Operation Gideon's Chariots, will go into effect if, and here's the key, if Hamas fails to make an agreement with Israel by the end of Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East next week. This according to the Jerusalem Post. So Trump is set to visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates from May 13th to 16th. And this is, of course, the second foreign trip of his second term. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's Israel's prime minister, discussed the plan during a Q&A video on his X account where he said, conquered land will be retained, with reserve forces being stationed in seized areas, the Jewish News Syndicate reported. Since the war began, the IDF has withdrawn from territory it previously seized, including large parts of northern Gaza. So, yeah. Anyway, Netanyahu said that military action would be intensified during the operation, and tens of thousands of IDF reservists are expected to be called up to help with the operation, according to the IDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir. The mobilization is reportedly going to be one of the largest since the war began in October of 2023. So things are starting to heat up over in the Middle East, folks. They are starting to heat up. Now, one thing that appears to be at least cooling down is the Houthis in the Red Sea. Yes, the Houthis in the Red Sea are calming down some. U.S. forces have now been told by Trump that, told by Trump through the media, I guess. Well, he probably told them beforehand. But anyway, this in the Epic Times, U.S. forces are to cease Yemen strikes after the Houthi capitulation. So Trump made the comment and said that the Houthi leaders had communicated to his administration that they no longer wish to fight. Gee, I wonder why. So President Trump announced this on May 6th. He said that the insurgent movement had finally tired of a year-and-a-half-long Red Sea standoff. Speaking with reporters as he hosted newly elected Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House on Tuesday, Trump said that in an overnight message, the Houthis announced, to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. Trump said they just don't want to fight, and we will honor that, and we will stop the bombing. They have capitulated. Also known as Ansar Allah, the Houthis are a Zaidi Shia movement that unseated Yemen's internationally recognized government from the capital city of Sana'a in 2014 and currently control an area encompassing about 80% of the country's 32 million population. Now, for those of you that don't know, there was also a shot, a missile that was fired off by the Houthis that actually got through Israelis' defenses and hit close to an Israeli airport. And Israel retaliated on that as well. Not without, I mean, the U.S. knew about it, but Israel retaliated almost immediately and I think took out one of their airports. But anyway, so the Houthis are basically saying, yep, uncle, we've had enough. We'll see. We'll see if that actually happens. Part of it might be because they may not be getting any funding from Iran anymore, which is the common problem across the board on these things. See, a lot of people don't seem to understand that Iran, the more money that gets funneled into Iran, the more money gets funneled into these third-party terrorist organizations that are essentially quasi-arms, militaristic arms of the Iranian regime over there. And so what a lot of people don't seem to understand is you have Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis that are all basically suckling off the teat of Iran. And they will do whatever Iran tells them to do. So if Iran is trying to get these people, or trying to get the Houthis to back off, well, that could be a reason. They don't have the money to support them anymore. And that's potentially that is a good thing, clearly. keep in mind, too, that Trump has his eyes on Iran and trying to get Iran's nuclear program abolished. So that's going to be something interesting in the upcoming days. But anyway, there you go. All right. Took a drink here real quick. Got to lubricate the throat. Anyway. Okay. So the U.S. Supreme Court issued a ruling at a request, by the way, by the Trump administration. And let's just say this ruling went what I believe is the correct way. So here in the Epic Times, the Supreme Court lets military ban troops who identify as transgender. The ruling is in place as the case against the ban continues. So keep in mind, this is just a temporary stop of a lower court's order that stopped or was attempting to stop the Trump military from basically banning transgenders in their ranks. Now, I got to tell you, look, as a former military individual, all right, there is one thing and one thing only that is high up on the list with regards to things like this. It's called troop morale, and it's called troop camaraderie. It's called troop cohesion. When you have troublemakers in the group, okay, and by troublemakers, I mean, we're focusing on transgenders right now, but it could be anything. Gangs, gang-related folks, it could be, criminals in the group, anything like that. They tend to get frowned upon really well because you need to understand that the close-knit society that the military fosters, okay, that the military fosters is predicated upon the basis that everybody is working together. Now, think about how this would work. You have a man, biological male, who basically infiltrates the female spaces. That isn't going to foster any kind of camaraderie. In fact, all that's going to do is necessarily create strife, stress, problems. Now, keep in mind that it probably wouldn't be, it probably wouldn't necessarily go the same way, the opposite direction. But let's be honest here. How often have we heard about women who are trying to be men? Especially in places like the services and athletics and that kind of stuff. Because why would a woman, honestly, I mean, granted, the standards have changed since Pete Hegseth has come in, but let's just be honest here. Why would a woman subject herself to the higher standards that used to be required for men in the military when they have female standards? So again, this is more, believe me, this is more geared toward men trying to be women in the services, if that's the case. And I got to tell you, yeah, like I said, camaraderie, cohesion, morale, all of those things can be affected when you have these types of individuals who are, let's say, going against the flow and having all kinds of challenges within it. But the Supreme Court granted a stay. This was today. Granted a stay that allows the U.S. military to go ahead and ban troops who identify as transgender, as the litigation challenging the ban continues. The majority of justices agreed to enter a stay of the preliminary injunction that was entered by a U.S. district judge in March against the policy pending the disposition of an appeal. Now, of course, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson all dissented. No surprises there whatsoever. Anyway, So yeah. So there we go. Also, too, in a memorandum in February, this follows up with the January executive order that Trump put in that basically said people who express a gender identity that diverges from their sex cannot satisfy the rigorous standards necessary for military service. And so the Defense Department officials said that personnel with gender dysphoria or who have a current diagnosis or history of or exhibit symptoms consistent with gender dysphoria would be discharged from the military unless they were given an exemption. Some affected personnel sued, alleging that the ban violates their constitutional rights. I don't think so. Now, U.S. District Judge Benjamin Settle said in the order entering the injunction. Now, keep in mind, there's also this other piece of pie, okay, that is also in there. For an example, how a district judge can issue a blanket universal order. Okay, so there you go. Anyway, so there we go. He entered the injunction that officials had presented no evidence supporting the prohibition on people who identify as transgender serving in the military. Yeah. Anyway, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in April, which was the next step up, denied the Trump administration's request for a stay on that order and concluded at that point that the government had not proven that it would suffer irreparable harm unless the injunction were blocked. So the U.S. Solicitor General, John D. Sauer, then went to the Supreme Court and asked it to intervene. And he basically said the district court issued a universal injunction usurping the executive branch's authority to determine who may serve in the nation's armed forces, despite this court previously staying injunctions against a materially indistinguishable policy. He argued that the appeals court action cannot be reconciled with how justices previously stayed injunctions against a previous policy, which was offered during Trump's first term. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway. Okay. So there you have it. We're going to have to see what's going to happen here. Of course, you know, again, this is all stuff that's going on. Well, in further judicial gymnastics ideas, Stephen Miller. Yeah, you know that Stephen Miller? Well, I personally, I haven't really looked into his background, but here it is. Here it is. Stephen Miller is, or has, the America First Legal Foundation. And according to the Gateway Pundit, Stephen Miller's America First Legal Foundation drops a bombshell lawsuit against none other than Chief Justice John Roberts. That's right. Now, it isn't against his action as Supreme Court Justice, although let's be honest, he is really not the best Supreme Court Chief Justice that we've ever had. But anyway, it's not against his capacity there. It's actually in his capacity as the, quote, presiding officer of the Judicial Conference of the United States. Now, it's also named a Robert Conrad, who is the director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. Now, the lawsuit accuses these two of running what the AFL describes as an unconstitutional shadow agency and violating federal transparency laws. The lawsuit, which was actually filed back in April 22nd, slams the Judicial Conference of the United States and its administrative arm, both of them who are overseen by Chief Justice Roberts, as, quote, rogue executive agencies that have collaborated with far-left lawmakers to wage lawfare against conservative Supreme Court justices. So what this is this is a lawsuit that is going up against the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court and a presiding officer of a sister administrative office, and basically pointing out that, and this is the lawsuit, okay? For several years, the media and enterprising lawmakers have launched an onslaught to destroy the impartiality and political neutrality of Article III courts, and particularly the Supreme Court. Okay? Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh have all faced political and physical threats because of the politicization and the weaponization of the law. This lawfare has been led by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Representative Hank Johnson. I think they should also throw Chuck Schumer in there as well, honestly. But anyway, I continue with the lawsuit. Relying upon an ideologically favorable legacy media to falsely accuse Justices Thomas and Alito of ethical improprieties. Their aim was simple: to chill the judicial independence of these Supreme Court justices. So there you go. There you go. Somebody has taken up the mantle to go after these people who are dragging the two most conservative justices on the Supreme Court today, and possibly two of the greatest Supreme Court justices that we have had in modern history, that is, dragging them through the mud for reportedly upended unsubstantiated ethical violations that they themselves, meaning the Supreme Court folks themselves, along with people like, Sotomayor and a few others, have also violated. But they only are pointing at the two conservative justices. So this is obviously lawfare. Obviously lawfare. And so somebody is finally, now I don't know how far this is going to go, but finally at least making an effort to try and unmask these violations of our constitutional separation of these powers. So, yeah. So anyway, the Judicial Conference, according to the complaint, the Judicial Conference and the Administrative Office of the Courts, long presumed exempt from Freedom of Information Act requests, have functioned more like executive agencies rather than neutral arms of the judiciary. And this is part of the problem, is if they are actually acting as though they are executive agencies, then they should comply with the FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act, because they are exercising what the AFL is arguing is executive powers, including responding to congressional oversight and issuing binding regulations, all under the direction of Roberts himself. So there you go. Now, of course, the AFL's lawsuit stems from its FOIA requests for communications between those agencies and particularly Senator Whitehouse and Representative Johnson, the two most vocal Democrat crusaders against those two fantastic conservative justices. So the agencies originally flatly denied the requests, by the way, and saying that FOIA doesn't apply to them. But the AFL decided to take them to court. Thank goodness, and thank you, Stephen Miller and AFL, American First Legal. I got to tell you, we have to utilize, and Americans need to understand, that the left weaponizes the justice system against conservatives and conservative values and against conservatism all the time. They trump up charges because of the fact that the The punishment is the process. That's what they say. They don't care whether they win or whether they lose. I mean, obviously, if they win, they're going to rejoice. But the punishment itself is the process, people. The punishment itself is the process. And most of the time, these people who they're getting the lawfare put against them don't have the resources of, say, such as a Donald Trump or an Elon Musk, and eventually end up capitulating, not because they want to, but because they have no other choice. They have no other resources available to carry on with the fight. And so yeah, there we go. Stephen Miller is taking it to a potentially backdoor channel connection. Yeah. So the America First Legal Foundation, I applaud you. I applaud you. In fact, let me see. Where is my... Yes, it is right here. So I applaud you. Oops. How did that... Wrong one. There we go. I applaud you. I applaud the American First Legal Foundation and Stephen Miller for actually doing something. All right, folks, let's take a quick break, and then I'll continue with my stories, or with my articles, whatever it is. Let's see. All right, this sponsorship itself is from Rumble, and that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases, and they were fair and treated all creators equally. I know, because I was treated unfairly by some of the other creator platforms that are out there. No one thought that platforms would actually censor political conversation or censor opinions on things such as COVID, but they did. Facebook itself admitted that they fell to the pressure from the Biden-Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They are attacked in corporate media. They are attacked by governments like France. Brand advertisers refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get very many that come their way. So watching our show on Rumble is the most that they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way that you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium. And again, that's that question mark key. Rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO to get $10 off a order or $10 off an annual subscription. Sorry, I screwed that up. Go to rumble.com/premium, use promo code STUDIO and get $10 off a annual subscription when you purchase it. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, that's fine. We're just happy that you watch us on Rumble. All right. So, Chuck Grassley has apparently had enough of these rogue district judges blocking Trump's orders nationwide. Yep, Chuck Grassley. Yep, he is a... I got to tell you, he's a really good guy. He's an old guy, but he's a good guy. That's all I got to say. But let's go ahead and listen to his own words in terms of what he is doing for this particular situation.
This legislation is needed to clarify the scope of the court's authority.
The urgency of it is that my bill brings attention to the issue and how these national injunctions have been used to fight President Trump's agenda. And so we have 600 or 700 district court judges. They serve in 93 different districts encompassing all of the United States. And when you have a national injunction in a California district, that means that that judge is making his decision nationwide to stop the president from doing what he thinks he should do as a result of his election and carrying out that election. And in the final analysis, this judge, 1 out of 600 or 700, is a policymaker instead of being a judge interpreting law. So my legislation would stop district judges from dictating national policy. It would limit judges to deciding cases and controversies, and the words cases and controversies come directly from the Constitution, limiting what judges can do. So starting over again, it limits judges to deciding cases and controversies and the parties directly before them, and just having that interpretation applied to that single district court district, and just to the parties, and not any nationwide application. And
so what he is essentially doing is just making sure that everybody understands what most people already do, which is essentially that these rogue justices, these rogue judges who are making these nationwide injunctions, which again, if you recall from an episode that I did a while ago, these nationwide injunctions didn't show up until the modern era. Okay? They did not show up until basically the Obama years. And so we're talking about judges that are clearly overstepping their boundaries. The only court that is constitutionally appointed, that has any kind of constitutional power, okay, is essentially the Supreme Court. They are the only Article III court that has any kind of constitutional power over the other two branches of government. It's as simple as that. You can't get any more simple because of the plain and simple fact, okay, just because of the plain and simple fact that the rest of the judges, the rest of the court system has all been created by Congress. Congress cannot create something that blocks the president. That's unconstitutional. The only way that Congress can do something toward the president, of course, is in terms of enacting his constitutionally appointed duties, would be to bring him up on impeachment charges. That's the only stick, let's say, that the Constitution allows Congress to have. And in order for that to happen, both houses of Congress have to agree. The House of Representatives have to clearly articulate what the president did wrong, and the Senate has to clearly define whether or not they are going to remove the president from office based on those charges, if and only if a trial within the Senate comes back as an affirmative that he or she needs to be removed. Those are the only things that the Congress can do to the presidency. The president enacts the laws that Congress writes. That's how it works. The president can't enact laws. Congress can't enforce the law. And the judiciary basically sits over the two of them and essentially tries to mitigate between the two when things get out of hand. But the fact of the matter is that these lower courts, these federal courts that are created by by the Congress, they don't have the same constitutional power that the Supreme Court does, because it does state in the Constitution that the lower courts can not only be created, but they can also be destroyed by Congress. Congress has that capability. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you a little historical backstory. The reason why it ended up that way is because Article 3 was actually finalized in the last days of the Constitutional Convention. And it was sort of finished really hurriedly because those people were already there for 100 days and wanted to go back to their homes. They didn't want to be there anymore. And so they quickly finished what they have to do. So anyway, all right. Let's see. Oh, so one other thing that I find very interesting, and apparently some lawmakers are asking this question too. And I sort of agree with them. They should be asking this question. Apparently, Judge Boasberg, you remember this moron who tried to stop the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua people from getting deported from D.C. when all of the people were actually being incarcerated in Texas. And therefore, the Supreme Court said, yeah, you're not the proper venue. You don't have any authority here. That should have been brought in front of a Texas federal district court judge. So, anyway, here it is right here. Judge Boasberg keeps getting assigned Trump cases. Now, in most cases, I'm just going to say, in most cases, and most judicial systems, they kind of have like a round robin effect where somehow they end up either, I don't know, drawing names out of a hat, or they're in some sort of a cyclical fashion so that you don't have necessarily the same plaintiff end up in front of the exact same judge all the time. Now, don't get me wrong. That the, my rumblers are sitting here going off about my shirt. Here, before I continue on this, let me just point out, this is the Declaration of Independence that's on my shirt. So what you see, or what you're trying to see underneath my shirt here, is July 4th, 1776 on my shoulder. So this is the copy. This is might as well do it. This is from theflagshirt.com. That's right, theflagshirt.com. And this is the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence male's cotton polo. Okay? Male cotton polo. So if you want to head over to theflagshirt.com, which is a fantastic organization, veteran-owned, veteran-run. They have some great patriotic styles in shirts and other stuff in men's, women's, children's, as well as accessories. You can head over to theflagshirt.com and go and check it out. Go to theflagshirt.com and check out all their patriotic styles. Coco de Whiskey, I believe this one is. I believe it is 100% cotton. But you gotta ask. Anyway, thanks 3 Chevy for the additional, because he was the one originally asking about the shirt. Thanks 3 Chevy for the ability to throw in an additional ad. Not that I really necessarily like doing that. Anyway. Yeah, it is the Declaration of Independence shirt. So there you go. All right, back to Judge Boasberg, who is definitely not constitutional whatsoever. He keeps getting assigned Trump cases, and lawmakers are kind of asking the question, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's going on here? So, he's the chief judge in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, and he has been repeatedly assigned cases, okay, that have to do with President Donald Trump's second term. Congress has now taken notice, and the House last month passed a bill that reins in rogue justices like Boasberg and others, although questions still remain. Town Hall obtained a letter from Representatives Jim Jordan, Darrell Issa, and Chip Roy regarding such concerns. The letter was sent to Angela D. Caesar, who is the clerk of the court for the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. You want to follow all of that. Anyway, as the letter begins, it begins in part by mentioning the second Trump term has been hit with over 30 nationwide injunctions, with the term having started just over 100 days ago. And it says, quote, many of these nationwide injunctions have raised concern that Article 3 judges are exceeding their constitutional authority by replacing the policy decisions of the duly elected president with their own preferences, eroding public trust in the integrity and fairness of our judicial system. Many high-profile cases challenging policy decisions of the Trump administration have been filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. And then as Congress considers potential legislative reforms to address the abuse of nationwide injunctions and adjust the national distribution and local assignment of cases challenging executive branch policy decisions, we write to request information about the district court's assignment of cases. So here's the cases of that were assigned to him, just, I mean, supposedly at random, but it's not. So it was the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act for deportations, which I already told you the Supreme Court slapped him down and said you're not the proper court for this. But also the administration officials' handling of the Signal app. Apparently there's a court case in the works for that. And the letter that was written by those three notes that Boasberg was assigned such high-profile cases less than 2 weeks apart, that he was also assigned cases having to deal with the Department of Government Efficiency and federal funding for programs that violate civil rights laws. While the latter one was dismissed, that was due to the plaintiff's request. Yeah. So anyway, the D.C. District Court's local rules are used to assign cases, but again, questions still remain. So the rules mention this: the clerk shall create a separate assignment deck in the automated system for each subclassification of civil and criminal cases established by the court. The deck will be created by the liaison to the Calendar and Case Management Committee or the liaison's backup. The Calendar and Case Management Committee will, from time to time, determine and indicate by order the frequency with which each judge's name shall appear in the designated deck, to effectuate an even distribution of cases among the active judges. Now, does that sound like, like he probably told the clerk to go ahead and put his name down for every single thing just to make sure that he got it, because he's a leftist lunatic. Anyway, so effectively, this process is like drawing from a deck of cards in which each judge is their own suit, with the number of cards equal to the number of cases that they can draw before the case assignment deck is then reshuffled and reloaded. Moreover, the likelihood of a case being assigned to a particular judge depends on how many cases the judge has already drawn from the deck and how many more cases the judge is required to draw that cycle. Now, this just sounds to me like it is even more controlled than that, meaning that if he already had a case or two, he shouldn't even be up for the next case. So why did he end up with basically 4 different cases that all involved the Trump administration? Seems a little bit like tampering to me. The letter continues and says why the congressmen are looking to hear from the clerk herself. It continues and says, while the district court's allocation process is intended to produce an equal distribution of cases to all judges, in practice, the distribution of cases can be unequal. The committee cannot independently verify the randomness of case assignments because of composition of assignment decks is kept secret. The only individuals to whom the court clerk is permitted to disclose this information are members of the Calendar and Case Management Committee and the chief judge. Oh, now we know what happened. The chief judge basically said, yeah, I'm going to take all of those. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway. We'll see what happens here, but that's just utterly ridiculous. All right. In the final moments, I'm just going to say, if you really want your kids, seriously, if you really want your kids to know and embrace conservatism and capitalism and how bad this federal government has gone off the rails, well, all you have to do is get them a job. That's right. So my daughter did her first taxes this year because this was the first time that she's had a full-time job and in a, outside of just going to school. And let me just say, it was an eye-opening experience for her, especially when it came down to the part about filing, because unfortunately her one of her positions has to deal with being a self-employed person, and you can't file for free as a self-employed person, according to the IRS. So anyway, it's not just her though. It's not just her, because a high schooler, and here's a little thing. A high schooler went ahead and found and received her first paycheck. Okay. And her and her mom kind of, while she looked at it, she was looking at the paycheck and she started asking some very serious questions. I hope this is the right video link, but let's go ahead and take a listen.
But I don't have Medicare, so why is Medicare taken out of my work hour check?
It's called taxes, boo-boo.
Yeah, I understand that, but I don't have Medicare. You pay taxes for the things you buy. If I buy cheese, I buy $6 plus sales tax. I don't have Medicare, so I shouldn't have the tax on Medicare because I didn't buy that. Like social is $7. $7, that's more than a 12th of my workness.
What?
I only get 10 an hour. Oh no, I did the math wrong. What is the Michigan income? Why are you gonna tax me for making money? You're laughing, but I don't understand.
That's what a tax is.
So what was the point? That's income tax. Income means coming to me.
That means income that goes to you gets taxed.
So what was the point of giving it to me if you're just gonna take it out?
Because the government didn't give it to you, the company gave it to you.
And the government's like, this is mine.
Yeah.
But it's not there. $15 in taxes? $15 is a lot for a high schooler. $15 was taken from me just because? But we don't even have free health insurance here.
I know.
So what's the point? So this will come back to me later. That $185 will come back.
Not directly, but you have to pay into Medicare so that one day if you do need Medicare, then Medicare will cover you.
I need you to use Medicare so my money not going to waste.
I can't use Medicare.
Why not?
I don't qualify for
when
Medicare.
You're old, qualify for it so that you can get my $185.
Social Security is also for when you get old and you retire. Because you paid into Social Security,
I'll get that.
You're supposed to get that when you get old.
Like a 401k?
No.
Every
time you make money, you pay taxes. Then at the end of the year, you're going to file your taxes.
Oh, again, they get it back.
No. Then the federal government is going to be like, well, where's ours?
This is the door.
I'm sorry. It is sad. It is sad when your child first sees that first sees their first paycheck and all of the things that go into it. I mean, yeah. What's sad though is she's actually asking some really good questions. Like, I don't use Medicare. Why should I be paying into Medicare if I don't use Medicare? Social Security. I don't pay into Social Security. And I'm just going to point this out. Social Security is slated to go insolvent in 2030, 2032, somewhere around in there. They're paying into something that is not even going to be available more than likely when this young lady is actually out of work. Folks, this is a sad state of affairs that our government has placed us in, and mostly it's Democrats. It's Democrats. So they're the ones that created all this trouble and all these problems. All right. That's it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, hit the thumbs up, or if you really want to, hit the thumbs down on all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night for Whiskey Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.